For Scientific American Science Quickly, I'm Rachel Feltman. If you pay any attention to the world of robotics and spend any time watching science fiction, you probably know that there's a big difference between what robots can do on screen and what they're actually capable of in real life. Today's guest is someone who's working to bridge that gap. Dennis Hong is a mechanical and aerospace engineering professor at UCLA. He's also the director of the Robotics and Mechanisms Laboratory, or ROMELLA. His robots range all the way from floating balloons with spindly legs to thick-thighed humanoids that dominate on the soccer pitch. He recently sat down to talk to me about these inventions and how he worked to build a custom robot for a new movie called The Electric State, which is out today on Netflix. Here's that conversation. Thanks so much for coming on to chat today. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So I understand that you just helped work on some robots related to Electric State. And maybe based on some interviews I've seen of you, that was kind of a full circle moment because of what got you interested in robotics. So would you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was 7 years old, when I was a kid, I watched the movie Star Wars for the first time. Episode 4 was the first one. I watched it at the Hollywood Man's Chinese Theater, and all the spaceships and all the lightsabers completely blew me away. And I completely fell in love with the movie. But if you remember in the movie, there's two robots in the movie. They call them droids. Everybody knows C-3PO, the humanoid robot, and R2-D2, the one that looks like a trash can. Completely captivated me. So on my way home back in the car, I told my mom and dad, I said, I'm going to grow up to become a robot scientist, and I follow my dreams, and I'm here today.
Very cool. So tell me a little bit about what you did with Electric State.
Sure. So I'm the director of ROMELLA, the Robotics and Mechanisms Laboratory at UCLA. We build so many different type of robots: climbing, jumping, rolling robots, humanoid robots, amoeba robots, chemically actuated robots, you name it. But for this one, it's a little bit different. There's a new movie, The Electric State, from one of my favorite graphic novels. And the Russo brothers, you probably know the directors, they were making a movie, and I got to be a part of the creation of this. In the movie, there's the main character is a robot called Cosmo. And we got to build the actual Cosmo for the movie.
Very cool. And were there any unique challenges to, creating that kind of, sort of entertainment-inspired robot versus the, very functional humanoid robots that you sometimes work on in your lab?
Absolutely. I was a professor at Virginia Tech for 11 years, and I joined UCLA about 10 years ago. And UCLA, we're in LA, there's Hollywood. So one of my main things that I wanted to do is try to connect the film industry with the robot industry. I met a lot of really famous movie directors, casting directors, even producers, and I showed them our robots, jumping, climbing robots, and everybody was like, wow, Dr. Hong, this is great. But they always say the same thing. But we do not need these robots for our industry. We have green screen, we have CGI. So in the movies industry, they don't need humanoid robots. Until I met the Russo brothers. Now, for this new movie, Electric State, it was a little bit different. So in the movie, they use CGI. However, when the movie comes out at the premiere on the promotional, events, how cool would it be if the robot in the movie actually comes out and greets people? And that's what we did. So we made an actual robot, Cosmo. It can walk, it can wave its hand. It's very, very cute. We brought it to not only the movie premiere, but Comic-Cons, New York Comic-Cons, to London, to Italy. We've been traveling around the world with this robot. But as you mentioned, most of the robots that we develop are practical robots for research. We have firefighting robots, disaster relief robots. They have an actual task. They need to pick up something. They cannot fall and do things. There are specific motions it needs to do. So when you generate the motion, as engineers and scientists, you try to figure out what's the most efficient, energy efficient or time efficient motion to do. But for a robot for entertainment, it's a completely different type of approach. It's a character in a movie. So how do we portray the character, the characteristics, the personality, if I may say? How do you capture that? That's very difficult or impossible to quantify. So as a robotics researcher, we struggle with doing that. But not only that, so when you design a robot, it's not arbitrary, right? There's a reason why the link length is this high, the ratio, the moment of inertia, the center of gravity location, all these parameters, it's not random. These robots needs to walk and do actual motion in real life. So it needs to follow the rules of physics, F equals ma, all the physical law. There's a reason why it's designed like that. But for this one, we didn't design the shape of the robot. It's actually a character in the graphic novel and the movies. And I'm sure you saw Cosmo. It has
Yeah.
a huge, gigantic yellow head. We
Yeah.
love it. It's cute. But as an actual robot, that is a horrible, horrible design. The legs, the ratio, it has huge boots, which make it look really cool. But these are so bad for actual walking. So how do we handle that? That was a very, very difficult challenge. Besides that, we only had 8 months to do this. The body is tiny. How do you pack all the components, the battery, the computer, the sensors, the actuators? How do you put all those into this tiny, tiny body? That's also difficult. Most, if not all of the industrial robots today, electrical power industrial robots, they use a thing called a servo actuator. So as you know, actuator is the device to make the robot move. Like for you and me or animals, these are muscles. So for these industrial robots, they use a thing called a servo motor. They do position control. They're very stiff. They're precise, but they're very stiff. But for a movie actor, for a character, it needs to have this personality. It needs to move like us, fluid and things like that. So we had to develop a new type of actuator called the Bear actuator. Bear stands for back drivable electromagnetic actuators for robots, Bear. Easy way to explain this is like artificial muscle. So it's compliant and not only the position, but also controls the force. So that's why it's very lifelike motion, just like the character in the movie.
Yeah. And do you see those actuators you developed, having a place in more practical robot designs down the line?
Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we started to develop this bear actuator before we started this project with Netflix. This actuator is actually used for most of our more recent robots. I'm sure you saw it on YouTube or on the news on TV. One of the humanoid robot called Artemis that we developed in our lab is when we announced it was the world's fastest walking robot. It can jump, it can run. It's also the world champion of autonomous robot soccer. It plays soccer too. But all these robots, we use this new type of bear actuator. And that's one of the key technology to enable these robots to use outside the structured environment, outside the lab. You can interact with people safely and also walk on uneven terrain. So these type of new actuator, I think it's a breakthrough technology.
So tell me more about humanoid robots in your lab. What interests you about a robot having a humanoid shape? Why is that worth pursuing?
Absolutely. I start dreaming about becoming a robot scientist watching Star Wars. R2D looks very strange and odd. It's like a trash can with a dome with 3 limbs. And in the movie, it can roll with wheels, it can walk with 3 legs, it can tiptoe, can walk with 2 legs. We call this a multimodal locomotion, or novel ways of making a robot move. So in our lab, we developed more than 40 different type of shape and size configuration robots. Inspired by R2D2, we developed all these jumping, climbing robots that roll, climb, wheel-like hybrid robot, everting robot, novel locomotions. But another half of the robots are humanoid robots. And I think I was inspired by C3PO. Humanoid robots in the movie, C3PO has been like living and working with humans in this environment, helping people. I think I was really moved by that. So why do we need humanoid robots? Trying to make robots walk with 2 feet, very difficult. Trying to make human hands, very, very challenging. Now, the famous architect Louis Sullivan once said, form follows function, which means that a shape of an object is dictated by what it needs to do. So instead of asking why we need human robots, let's change the question. What kind of task requires the human shape and size? Now, I have a dream. In the future, I would like to be living with robots in our house, doing the dishes, taking out the trash, all these everyday things. Now, I claim that the robot needs to be human shape and size to do that because this environment, look around, stairs is a certain height for humans to walk up. Your door handle is a certain height to open up the door for humans. So unless the robot is human shape and size, it won't be able to navigate or even use tools designed for humans. So that's one reason why I'm doing humanoid robots. There's another reason. Do you have a robotic vacuum cleaner at your home?
I have had one before.
Okay.
It broke, but yeah.
Robots. Does it look like a janitor?
No.
No,
It's one of those little discs.
Yeah, it looks like a big puck, hockey puck. Why is it that? Because that's the optimal shape and size. It needs to avoid obstacles. It needs to go under a desk. So that's the right shape and size. So in other words, if it's a single tasker, you optimize the shape and configuration for that task. But if you need something that's a multitasker, You can do many things. Then that's when we need humanoid robots. So not only for moving in the house and the human environment, but disaster relief situation. We developed a robot called Thor, Tactical Hazardous Operations Robot for disaster relief. You probably remember the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant accident in Japan. There's a accident in a nuclear power plant because of the radiation. People cannot go. So what do? We design and build these humanoid robots to rescue people and fix things. So there's many reasons why we want to have humanoid robots. And of course, it's cute, fun. We get to relate. And in this case, Electric Steak, the robot is a humanoid shape. So that's why we did it.
I love that. One of the things that I think is so cool about your lab is that, in addition to creating these really ambitious humanoid robots, you also have robots that have really novel forms. I know you have one that the body is a helium balloon, and then it has these like very twig-like legs. Could you tell us about some of your favorite designs that, go totally in the other direction and really are about function?
I encourage people watching this to go to TED.com, search for Dennis. I have 3 talks on it, and I show all the different shape and size, like crazy creative robots that we created in our lab. Now, the robot that you mentioned is called Baloo, Buoyancy Assisted Lightweight Leg Unit. So humanoid robots in the early stages, they're slow, they fall down, they're complex, they're expensive, and they're dangerous. I mentioned why we need humanoid robots, but there's so many different problems with these. So we've been doing some brainstorming session on how to solve these problems. Now, during this brainstorming sessions, we always try to ask ourselves ridiculous questions. That ridiculous answer comes out, and sometimes from those ridiculous answers, something really creative idea pops out. In this case, we ask ourselves, what if we can change the direction of gravity? How can you do that? It's possible, but we ask ourselves these questions. That led to a new type of humanoid robot or bipedal robot called Baloo. The body is a helium balloon. It's a balloon with 2 legs. That's a ridiculous robot, but it cannot fall down. It's the world's safest bipedal robot, most likely. And most likely it's the world's cheapest, lowest cost humanoid robot. It walks elegantly. It's a crazy, cute, wonderful, out of this world robot called Baloo.
Yeah, very cool. How is AI factoring into your robotics work and the future of robotics?
Yes. So AI can mean different things for different people. For our robotics, AI can mean autonomy. These days with this large language models, we have a new concept called large action models. I talked about this Artemis humanoid robot. It's a metal robot, can run, jump. It's a high performance robot. It's a big, tall, heavy robot. Now, when we first introduced Artemis humanoid robots, the robotic society, the community was stunned by its performance. And everyone's asking, Dr. Hong, what kind of AI technique have you used? And my answer was, we did not use any AI. As a matter of fact, we couldn't use any AI. The reason is this. Now, everybody uses ChatGPT. It's a text-based, chatting AI system. Mm-hmm. What is the data? The data is text. Right? You probably know DALL-E. DALL-E is a AI system where you give a prompt and it generates images. You probably know Sora, give a prompt and it generates video, right? So to do this, you need to train it with data. For ChatGPT, the data is text. Where do you get the text? Text everywhere. Books, internet, everywhere. For images, where do you get the images? Digital cameras, your smartphone, it's on the internet. For Sora, the video creation AI, where do you get the data of video? It's on YouTube, it's everywhere. So we can train these systems to do that. Can we use the same concept for robotic? Okay, let's do that. Then you need to have the data. But what is the data for robotics? It's the motion, position, acceleration. Not only that, but impact, friction. Where do you get this data? If you search online, do you find this data? No, it does not exist. So we didn't have the data, and it's very difficult to get this huge amount of data. So that's why we couldn't use AI techniques to make it walk for Artemis. Okay. Now, Baloo is different. Let's try to do it a model-based approach. We couldn't do that because it's so highly non-linear. When the wind blows, it's so sensitive to different type of conditions. Very, very difficult to describe its motion using physics and mathematics. So we couldn't use model-based. But unlike Artemis, this robot does not fall down. So in the lab, 24/7, it's constantly walking in the lab. We have the motion capture camera, and we're extracting data of its motion. So we trained the AI system to make it walk. So this is really interesting. So the Artemis robot, we couldn't do learning-based, so we did model-based. Mm-hmm. Baloo, we couldn't do model-based, but it was great for learning-based, which is AI. So that's what we did.
What excites you about the future of robotics?
Oh, it's robots. How can you not be excited about the future? Every day, I'm like a kid at a toy store. There are also danger of AI and these type of robots, ethical problems. Sure, we are completely aware of those things. But if you think about it, what is technology? What is robotics technology? Yeah, some people define it as sense, plan, act. It's an intelligent machine that does work. For me, robots, the definition of robot for me is an intelligent machine that does things that people cannot do or shouldn't be doing or don't want to do. In other words, robotics is a technology to help people make the world a better place and make people happy. It might sound cheesy, but that's truly what I believe. And this electric state robot, Cosmo, is no different. Is it a robot that actually does helpful work and fixes stuff in your house? No, but it's entertainment. It makes people happy. And I think that is very, very important.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really fun.
Thank you.
That's all for today's episode. If you're listening to this on our podcast feed, you can go check out an extended version of the episode on our YouTube channel. We'll be back with our usual news roundup on Monday. Science Quickly is produced by me, Rachel Feltman, along with Fonda Mwangi, Kelso Harper, Naima Marcy, and Jeff Calvicio. This episode was edited by Alex Sugiura. Shayna Pozis, Emily Mikowski, and Aaron Shattuck fact-check our show. Our theme music was composed by Dominic Smith. Subscribe to Scientific American for more up-to-date and in-depth science news. For Science Quickly, this is Rachel Feltman. Have a great weekend.